Alright, today we're going to review for your test tomorrow. Um, First of all, we're going to start with 3.1 and 3.2, which is solving equations. So we're going to solve the equation if possible. So I have a negative 2/3 d equals 8. So what I need to do is I need to do the opposite of our fraction. So the opposite of a fraction is the reciprocal. Now the reciprocal is if we flip the fraction over, we'll have 3 over 2 instead of 2 over 3. So we're going to multiply that by both sides. I'm going to make 8 into a fraction, so it makes it easier to multiply. So these are going to cancel out. I get d equals 8 times negative 3, which is negative 24. 1 times 2 is 2. So I get d equals negative 24 divided by 2, which gives me a negative 12. Over here, what I see is that I have two g's, so I can combine those. 18 minus 26g is going to give me a negative 8g equals 40. Now I have negative 8 times g, which means I can divide negative 8 by both sides. And g equals negative 5. Here I have 13 minus 9w equals negative 14. So the first thing I need to do is move the constants over. So if I move a positive 13, it means I'm going to subtract 13. So what I get is negative 9w equals negative 27. Divide that by negative 9. Now when I divide, two negatives make a positive. 27 divided by negative 9 gives me a positive 3. Here we have to get rid of the constants first. So I'm going to subtract 9 because that's the opposite of plus. So those cancel out. I get 3/5 a equals 27 minus 9, which gives me 18. Now I'm going to do the reciprocal because I have a fraction, so I'm going to flip it. So I have 5 over 3 instead of 3 over 5 on both sides. I'll make 18 into a fraction to make it easier to multiply. So now I have a equals 18 times 5, which gives me 90. And then 1 times 3 gives me 3. 90 over 3, or 90 divided by 3, will give me 30. Next page, we're still solving the equation. We're going to see if it's possible to solve these. So what I see first are parentheses and a number outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute. So I can draw my box if you need to. So 2 times 11 minus h. 2 times 11 is 22. 2 times negative h is negative 2h. Now we have 5h plus 22 minus 2h equals negative 5. Now I'm going to combine the two h's that I have. 5h minus 2h gives me 3h plus 22 equals negative 5. Subtract 22. So I'll have 3h equals negative 27. Divide that by 3. And I get h equals not negative 9. Here again, I see parentheses. This time I'm going to distribute. I'm not going to draw my box this time. I'm just going to distribute this 2. So I get 12c plus 6 equals 6 plus 12c. Now, if I move my variables over, I can have my variable side and my constant side. If I move my variable over here, 12c, over to the other side, and I subtract them, I get 12c minus 12c, which is 0. Here is 12c minus 12c, which is 0. And I get 6 equals 6. Now, what that's called is an identity. So an identity means that any real number I could put in for c and the equation would work. So the number 2 is identity. Here again I can distribute. I get 2 minus 15n equals negative 15n plus 10. Okay, now I can draw my line down. If I put my variable side here and my constant side on this side, I'm going to add 15n from here and add 15n over here. So that gives me 0. That gives me 0 as well. So now I have 2 equals 10. Now I know that 2 doesn't equal 10. It can never equal 10. So what I have is no solution. So this equation is impossible to do. There's no solution. Over here I can distribute. So I get negative 3 equals 12y minus 10y plus 35, because 2 negatives equal positive. Combine my like terms. I get negative 3 equals 2y plus 35. I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. I get negative 38 equals 2y. Divide that by 2. And I get y equals a negative 19. Okay, next we get into our proportions. So it says you made a model of the Space Needle in Seattle, Washington for a report on architecture in the United States. You used a scale of 1 inch to 50 feet. Your model is 12.1 inches tall. Estimate the actual height of the Space Needle. So we're looking for the actual height. So if I have inches on top of my ratio and feet on the bottom, I have 1 inch equals 50 feet. And what I'm trying to find out is what is the actual height. So I know that this is x, and I do have a 12.1 inches, so I put that on top. Now, to solve this problem, I need to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply 50 times 12.1 and 1 times x. 1 times x is going to give me 1x. 50 times 12.1 gives me 605. Now I don't need to do anything with this 1x. I can just write x equals 605. And then what we're looking for is the actual height, and the actual height is in feet. So 605 feet tall. Okay, my next problem, I have a proportion. So how I solve these proportions is I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to have 3 times 4v plus 14 and 2 times 2v plus 14. Now I just have a negative outside of my, here, a negative 2/3, so I only need to pick one of those to have, for it to be negative. So I'm going to pick this 2, so I'll have negative 2 times 2v plus 14 equals 3 times 4v plus 14. So if I distribute these, I have negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4v. Negative 2 times 14 is negative 28. And 3 times 4v gives me 12v. 3 times 14 is 42. So I have negative 4v minus 28 equals 12v plus 42. Now I'm going to get my variables on the same side. I'm going to pick this side because that will leave me with a positive variable. I add 4v to both sides. What I get then is 16v plus 42 equals a negative 28. Now I have to subtract 42 to get v by itself. Negative 28 minus 42 is going to give me negative 70 equals 16v. Divide by 16. And v equals negative 70 divided by 16. Which gives me negative 4.375. Okay, moving on. I have 15m over 18 equals 30 over 36. I'm still cross multiplying, so I'm going to cross 18 times 30 and 15m times 36. So if I multiply those out, 15 times 36 equals 540. M equals 30 times 18 gives me 540. Divide 540. I get M equals 540 divided by 540, which is 1. M equals 1. This one says, you burned a CD of your music and then created an artistic CD label for it. Your friends liked it so much that they all asked if you would make CD labels for the CDs of their music. So far, it's taken you 6.5 hours to create 3 CD labels. How long would it take you to create 4 more labels? So, if I have 6.5 hours, and that takes me, or that makes 3 labels, what I'm trying to find out is how long it would take if I have 4 labels. I don't know how long, so I'm going to put x there. So again, it's a proportion. I can solve it by cross multiplying. So I get 3x equals 4 times 6.5 6.5 times 4 gives me 26. 3x equals 26, so I divide by 3. Now this says round your answer to the nearest tenth, so I know 26 divided by 3 is not going to give me a nice number. I know it's going to give me 8.67. But if I round it to the nearest tenth, I get 8.7. 8.7 hours to make 4 labels. Alright, so our last lesson that we learned was 3.8. It was rewriting equations and formulas. So these ones say write the equation in function form. That's the same as saying solve for y. So I'm looking to find my y. I found it right here. I need to get that by itself. So what I need to do is move everything else over. So I'm going to move this 18x over by subtracting it, because the 18x is positive. And subtract 18x here. So I get negative 2y equals 26 minus 18x. I can't combine those because one has an x and one doesn't. So I have negative 18x plus 26. Now y is still not by itself. It has a negative 2 attached to it. So that means I'm multiplying. So the opposite of that is divide. So I'm going to divide by negative 2. When I divide it by everything. And I get y equals negative 18 divided by negative 2. Two negatives when I'm dividing make a positive. 18 divided by 2 gives me 9. Now 26 divided by negative 2 is going to give me a negative 13. My answer is y equals 9x minus 13. On this problem, I'm trying to get y by itself. So I'm first going to move my constants over. So I have a minus 6. I'm actually going to do the opposite and add 6. So we have negative 6y and 8x equals 18 plus 6, which is 24. Move over the 8x. Since this is positive, I'm going to subtract. So we get negative 6y equals, now I can't combine these, so negative 8x plus 24. Divide by negative 6. Y equals, two negatives make a positive, but I can't divide 8 by 6. I can simplify it though. I can take 2 out of both. So I'll have a positive 4 over 3x plus 24 divided by negative 6, which gives me a negative 4. So my answer is y equals 4/3 x minus 4. Last couple problems, we're rewriting a couple formulas. So this first one says I have S equals 2b plus pH. Solve for h. So I'm going to circle my h because I know that's what I'm trying to get by itself. So the first thing I'm going to move over is everything that's not touching my h. So 2b, I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to subtract it because it's positive. So I have a negative 2b plus s equals pH. I'm still trying to get this h by itself, and these are touching, so that's multiply. So I divide by p. Now I'm going to divide everything over here by p, so I'm just going to put p as one big thing underneath. So I have h equals negative 2b plus s over p. Alright, now if we do our last problem, we have s equals pi rl plus pi r squared, and we're solving for L. So I am going to underline my L so I know what I'm solving for. So I'm going to take this pi r squared and subtract it because it's being added, and subtract it from over here. So I have s minus pi r squared equals pi rl. Now pi rl are being multiplied together, so I know I can divide. I'm going to divide everything by pi r to get L by itself. So I have s minus pi r squared over pi r equals L. Alright, that's our review.